My fellow gods, the dark skies have spoken.
It is time for Susan and I to retire.
But where will you go?
Zeus! Sorry, Zeus! I need a charge in the... Oh! Thanks!
Sweetheart, it's not rocket science. I'm heading out. Don't forget to take Peggy for a walk. Mwah.
Yo, Zeus! A little juice!
That's it. I'm done with this place.
We'll see about that. Everything okay out there, baby?
Hey!
Little Peggy, a little walk, huh?
I figure you could use a little pick-me-up.
All electric?
All electric.
The BMW iX. Electricity in its ultimate form.
Electric Avenue. And then we take it higher.
BMW, the ultimate electric driving machine.
This man really needs no introduction. Seven-time Mr. Olympia, one of the biggest movie stars in the history of the planet, the governor of California. But his real legacy is this: what he's done to combat climate change. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Our clean energy crusade can do exactly the same thing. Just look at how technology has transformed electric cars. I mean, 15 years ago, the only option was a tiny little weird-looking car that would barely drive around town and barely anyone could fit in it. But today, electric cars are beautiful, they're powerful, and they can drive for hundreds of miles on a charge. Now, I'm sure that you saw the BMW commercial where I played Zeus, the god of lightning, to introduce the new fantastic electric car, BMW iX. And it was introduced at the Super Bowl. Now, just so you know, the Super Bowl is the #1 sports and TV event in the United States every year. As a matter of fact, this year, 208 million people watched it. It is huge. Everyone in America talks about it and can't wait for it. Commercials there on the Super Bowl cost $6.5 million for every 30 seconds, just to show you how big this is. Now, when I heard about this commercial, I signed on right away. And #1, because I was able to play Zeus. I mean, it was a dream role. The ruler of all gods and the father of Hercules, who I played, by the way, in 1969 in a movie. And #2, I love the idea of promoting an electric car on the biggest stage possible, the Super Bowl. And #3, the performance. I mean, when I heard that it could drive 324 miles without a charge, and that it has a 516 horsepower engine that goes from 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, I said, finally there's a car that looks great, that you can put people in it, and that is powerful. When I watched the Super Bowl, I have to tell you, I was absolutely in heaven. Not because I love watching myself, well, that too, but because almost every car commercial this year was for an electric car. I mean, this is huge, ladies and gentlemen, because just 4 years ago, there was not a single electric car commercial, not a single one. That's what I call going mainstream. Finally, everywhere you look, the clean energy revolution is firing on all cylinders. Oh, in this case, it's batteries. Our job is simple. Keep the engine running at full speed. It is time to put fossil fuels in our rearview mirror. Now, you said it yourself. This isn't just climate change. This is a climate emergency. This is a pollution emergency. And I agree with you. This is an emergency.
I do have to say, just on the issue of gas prices, after waiting for a long time to have enough chips in this country to finally get my electric vehicle, I got it and drove it from Michigan to here this last weekend and went by every single gas station, and didn't matter how high it was. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity for us to move to vehicles that aren't going to be dependent on the whims of the oil companies and the international markets.
First-time unemployment claims came in worse than expected, and housing starts fell off of a cliff.
I'm watching Bloomberg this morning. Oh, the U.S. might already be in recession. People, we are so far beyond a recession. We are in collapse, okay? And this is a phenomenon that is global. You all know that.
It's a hurricane. Right now it's kind of sunny. Things are doing fine. Everyone thinks the Fed can handle this. That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way. We just don't know if it's a minor one or Superstorm Sandy Sandy or Andrew or something like that. And it's you better brace yourself.
We're in a free fall here. Our global economy, it's dead. It's over. It's finished. It's been this way for a very long time. And I've been telling you for a very long time, it's going to get real. It's going to get very real. It's been a drug. It's been a heroin that's being pushed into the market and this economy, giving the illusion of some type of prosperity. No, I'm sorry. Nothing is real. Nothing what it seems to be. Okay? This is just, again, it's a deliberate act by central banks to wipe out an entire class of people, and it's happening.
Level, which is doing the surveillance and actually doing what I call germ games, where you practice. You say, okay, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports? How would the world respond?
And what the central banks are going to do right now, on top of fueling crisis after crisis after crisis, billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars being thrown at crisis, COVID, monkeypox, wars, and everything else. You think this is not inflationary? Really? Now, you see, we haven't seen anything yet because this is all deliberate. It's not going to stop. All you're going to hear is from retarded politicians, none more so than Franken-Mummy himself, who will not point his finger at the Federal Reserve, neither would the last president or the one before that, because they all wanted their central bank to keep pumping that market. Look at the stock market, yes, our economy is booming. Could have been further from the truth. Okay, you all got lied to, and you all bought it. A lot of you bought it. It's all bullshit. Not those of you who understand what's really going on here. It's all total dog shit. And now we're all paying the price of president after president after president calling on the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to continue to inflate. That's all this has been. Keep pumping that easy money into the market. Keep rates suppressed. Rob savers blind. Any one of them who have an interest earning account, even if it's a high yield account. You can't make this stuff up if you try to, people.
We need to accept that there will be some pain in the process. The pace that we need will open up for missteps. It will open up for shortages on energy. It will create inflationary pressures, and maybe we need to start talking about that pain is actually worth it, because if we don't, there's no business case, there's no economy, there's no welfare. But so far, I think we have been a little bit careful actually talking about the pain in the short term that is likely to come from this very important change. Yeah.
Well, the Running Man was not really done for that purpose, to do anything against network or make fun at them or whatever. Although a lot of it is today already a reality that you see in the film, that whole competition for ratings and all that. But it's just an idea that you say, okay, let's assume this is happening. Let's assume there's an economic disaster in a future time, let's say 2013 or 19 or whenever it happened, and the networks are competing against each other for ratings. The government is involved, and they are actually paying the networks in order to keep the people away from the streets, from rioting, and keep them glued to the TV set. And everyone is hooked together, government, network, and dictatorship, and economic disaster. And now what will happen with a game show like The Running Man, which is the most popular show, in order to create the highest rating?
Fast forward 5 years. Do we have a central bank digital coin out there in the world that is being utilized on a daily basis, whether it's wholesale or retail, and it becomes a superior system? Francois, yes or no?
We have several experiments which are not very far from that. They're not yet generalized, but they could be, let's say, the next 3 years, probably. It will go quicker on the wholesale side,
Yes.
I guess, because it raises less sensitive questions.
Yes, Axel.
No, I'm quite glad to hear what you're saying, François, on the wholesale digital currency, not coin. I am also a believer that will come in 5 years. Yes, what I try to say is obviously, we still have those huge legacy environment. They need to migrate as well, so we will not yet see all the benefits coming through, but it will come and will be much more efficient, also probably much more secure, lowering transaction costs. On the retail side, I'm much more skeptical. Certainly call it for the established economies.
Former President George W. Bush was delivering a speech at his presidential center today at Southern Methodist University in Texas. And while talking about Russia and its president, he made what must be one of the biggest Freudian slips of all time.
In contrast, Russian elections are rigged. Political opponents are imprisoned or otherwise eliminated from participating in the electoral process. The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway. 75.
We need an energy transformation on the scale of the Industrial Revolution at the speed of the digital transformation, and therefore we need a revolution in finance.
Okay, just think about that for a moment. On the scale of the Industrial Revolution, do you realize how big that was for the world at that time? This is what he's comparing it to. And the speed of the digital revolution, the digital revolution, you've never seen such speed because of the incremental improvements in terms of how digital can improve upon itself. So anyone that thinks this is going to be very, very slow and all these things are going to take time, no, he's saying it right there. This is going to be fast and impactful.
Let's bring in UFO documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell. This is your specialty. You've been working on this for years now. Thank you for being with us today on such a big day. This is for you, and can we say the UFO community?
Absolutely, the UFO community, yeah.
Okay, so what is the biggest revelation you think from today's hearings?
First of all, UFOs are not a matter of belief. That's a data-poor perspective, and this is a data-rich environment. So if you look at it this way, every day human knowledge expands, and that's what we're seeing today. Today was this landmark moment. It was a moment a lot of people were asking for, and representative government came forward and offered this. It's the first time in 50 years that we've had open congressional hearings on the subject of UFOs. And not only that, today there was a pressure that was put on our intelligence agencies and our Department of Defense to fess up about what they know. And what they know is that UFOs are real, that they're physical objects, that they are advanced craft, that they outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform any of our war technology. So they showed new footage today, actually. They showed new footage. So that is a symbol or a sign of UFO transparency. We're living in a different world. We're now living in a world, your children are gonna grow up, and the UFO mystery, the scientific community is gonna look at this.
But also bringing it forward from that, 5-year decarbonization plans that need to be rolled out and annual reporting.
5-year plans that need to be rolled out and annual reporting. Can you see how strict all of this criteria is? I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, or many of their mind, that they are going to achieve what they're talking about here. I just don't see how it's not going to happen with the speed, the commitment, and the amount of money that is behind this initiative.
The devastating earthquake in Afghanistan has claimed the lives of more than 1,000 people and left many more injured. The country, which is governed by the militant Islamist Taliban, is already in the grip of a humanitarian disaster, with millions facing famine.
What the institutions are doing is working through and developing those decarbonization plans, and it won't surprise you that that means engaging with the people they invest in or lend to for their own plans.
Again, he just said it right there and then. those institutions are going to be putting pressure on the institutions below them that they manage and look after to create their own plans. So the way they've done it is very clever. They've gone for the top stakeholders first, those with the biggest sort of spread across the financial industries globally, and they've started with those, and they're getting those to put pressure below them, those to put pressure below them. It is just like this whole pyramid model all over again. They're applying the same model that they've applied to other sectors.
Today in Afghanistan, rescue workers rush to save the wounded after violent tremors shook this troubled nation, killing more than 1,000, according to the Afghan government. The 6.1 magnitude earthquake in the country's southeastern Paktika province was felt as far away as Kabul, the country's capital, and even neighboring Pakistan. It destroyed our neighbors' houses, this man said. When we arrived, there were many dead and wounded. Local officials warn casualties are expected to rise. Hundreds of bodies may remain trapped in destroyed buildings. Today's fresh tragedy strikes Afghanistan at its most vulnerable. It comes less than a year since Taliban fighters claimed the entire country. Amid America's chaotic withdrawal following a nearly 2-decade-long occupation, the country's finances have already been gutted by war, banking sanctions, and aid cuts. The ruling Taliban begging for international aid, but for many here, help may come too late.
There's this whole new thing of a client transition plan, a whole new ask. So this year we published in February our targets for oil and gas and power and utility sectors, the most carbon intensive.
Okay, you just heard it there. Oil and gas, power and utilities. What have we been talking about here on the channel? Where have some of the biggest challenges come from? Oil and gas, power and utilities. Oil and gas, this is where we're seeing these exploding prices. Why? Because people like these people here on stage are stopping the investment via the ESG mandates, environmental social governance mandates, into those industries. This is why prices are exploding, and we're running out of energy that is available through the current means of extraction.
What we expect from private companies for their plans. Last point I'll make by way of introduction is this is about real world decarbonization, not the false comfort of portfolio decarbonization.
You heard it there from the horse's mouth. Okay, so two things. Number one, they're going to put pressure on private companies for their decarbonization plans. But number two, he said, this isn't, like what he's explaining there is, this isn't just like offsetting, how some of these companies do carbon offsetting, but it hasn't made any difference in carbon emissions. He's saying right there that they are going to create decarbonization.
The Vatican announcing over the weekend the Pope will visit the Italian city of L'Aquila, home to Pope Saint Celestine V, who resigned in 1294, and more recently where Pope Benedict made a symbolic gesture in 2009, before announcing his own resignation 4 years later. Associated Press Vatican correspondent Nicole Winfield says some are reading meaning into the trip.
We now have Pope Francis also making a pilgrimage to L'Aquila. Maybe, perhaps, or maybe not, the Pope might have in the back of his mind that at some point he might also resign.
Francis will make the trip the day after he holds a formal assembly called a consistory to create 21 new cardinals. 16 are under the age of 80 and eligible to choose his successor, including American Cardinal designate Robert McElroy of San Diego. Francis will have chosen the vast majority of cardinal electors.
It could just be coincidence, but at the same time, you can't ignore the facts when they present themselves, but with a grain of salt, knowing that this is a pope, he can do whatever he wants.
Might that be another reason to step aside? At 85, Francis endures physical challenges, also fueling speculation. He underwent colon surgery last summer and suffers from sciatica. He recently started using a wheelchair because of pain in his right knee.
I don't think being in the wheelchair has affected his papacy whatsoever.
What can dismiss all this speculation, some experts believe, is the presence of Francis' predecessor, Pope Emeritus Benedict.
I don't think Pope Francis is going to resign while Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI is still alive. It's confusing enough that people think that there are two popes.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows.